Well, good afternoon, NAC. I was just taking a second there to admit everybody out of the waiting rooms. Thank you so much for your patience and welcome to the NAC Check-in Chat. This is the fifth of the fifth edition in our series, and we're glad that we've got a pretty regular group that's joining us, and also we're managing to get a few new members every week. Today we've got over 60 people registered, and we're thrilled about that. So let's get started. So I just have a few announcements to make. And first of all, I wanted to let you know that the next check-in chat is slated for May 5th, and we're going to feature Win Salish. Win has been a contributor with NAC before, and he's with Casablanca Ventures. He'll be discussing payment processing and data security. And with all of us opening up and cashless being now the norm, we're going to be really excited to see what Win has to say. Free registration for that will be out soon, and so stay tuned for that and keep on the lookout for that. I'd like to remind everybody to please stay muted during the call so we can get our information out and have some good order. But I would invite you to use that chat function to ask any questions you might have. I know our two presenters today would love to have lots of questions and byplay along the way. In the way of announcements, these are the same announcements as you saw 2 weeks ago, but they are important ones for the industry. CinemaCon registration is open, and the CinemaCon folks have asked me to pass that along to you. So visit their site and take a look at their event. I am hoping to have the CinemaCon folks on one of these calls next month. So I thought that'd be a great time to see where they're at and what they have planned. And then also our own event. We were excited to announce 2 weeks ago, but the NAC Concession and Hospitality Expo is planned for October 27th and 28th at the Hyatt Regency in Dallas. And we've got several things already planned. We're kind of filling in the bones right now, but a little bit shorter meeting, a one-day trade show, and some of our normal procedures that we go through, like general education sessions. We'll have an awards luncheon. We'll bring back the venue breakout sessions, which were always very popular, and social events. We'll also have a 4-day CCM class in the days leading up to Expo. And I'm also pleased to announce, and this is really recent information, there's going to be an online summer version of the CCM class. We'll be announcing that any day now. So stay tuned for that as well. So a lot of things happening at NAC. Today's program, we're really excited to have Ken Whiting of Whiting's Food Concessions, and he's also a vice chair with the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. And I know Ken thought I was just going to say IAAPA, but we went for the big title, Ken. And and of course, he's going to be touching on the state of amusement park and attractions right now. And we think it's kind of important because obviously people are opening around the country, but also opening seasonally in the northern climates. So what a great time to have Ken on board. But before we welcome in Ken, I want to thank today's featured sponsor, Cretors and Company. Cretors is one of NAC's longest standing continuous members, and we certainly always appreciate their support. I would mention at this point in the program, if you are interested in sponsoring one of these events, please let me know. It's very reasonable. And I know Shelley could tell you we've had a great time preparing for this meeting. So with that, Shelley, I'm going to go to your screens and I will introduce Shelley Olson from Cretors to take a few minutes and tell us about what's going on. Okay, Shelley, it's all yours.
All right. I don't know if you could see this, Chris, but I found a new use for my NAC award. Let's not lie to each other. Everybody's been partaking during COVID. But thank you, Chris, NAC, Ken, for letting Cretors or inviting Cretors to be a part of today's meeting and share some of the things that we at Cretors have been working on over the past COVID year. And it's been a year. I think we're yes, we're best known for inventing the popcorn machine, but we truly appreciate the idea of thinking outside the box because we can do so much more. And it's so critical that as you're speaking with your current vendors and or customers and or competitors, sharing is important, and thinking about your vendors, and they can do so much more for you than what they traditionally might do. We've had, we're really good at concession equipment, but we're also really good at bending sheet metal. And behind me, I've got some of the PPE items that we worked on. So Vanna, next slide.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay, yes, we're all waking up out of this slumber and we're stretching and we're getting ready and into the theaters, parks, stadiums, and it's not 2019. I think we're all becoming aware of that pretty quickly. The supply chain is super slow, not just on finished goods, but even for your vendors on getting components that are critical in getting the equipment out in timely manners. Trucking, oh my goodness, trucking is so slow. They can't find enough drivers. Lead times are so long and raw material prices keep going up. So please be patient. We're committed to your success and we just need to communicate and continue to work together. Next slide. Chris? Yeah. So embracing new ideas. Over the course of the last year, UNAC members have been fantastic. So many of the theaters were so open and thinking outside the box and what do they need to open when we thought we were opening last year. And that mobile shield, which is also right over my shoulder, we've sold a ton of those stands for sanitizer wipes and sanitizer dispensers. We did some of those. Go to the next slide. And then we start getting ready. Now we're opening, now we're there. Oh my goodness, are we really there? We are. And we need to make sure that the equipment that we have is in good condition and it stays in good condition. So the maintenance is critical. We have worked on putting together a lot of guidelines, videos, sheets on how to get your equipment back up and started after being dormant. So you can go to the next slide. It's really important that if you need information, please reach out to us and I'll tell you how at the end. We've got some great information that might be able to help you. Great ideas come from our customers. And this one actually started back, gosh, I think it was CinemaCon 2019, and they needed it was actually Cinemark asked for an emergency kit for their poppers. So we put together this emergency kit, and it's got 20 plus common replacement parts. And the whole purpose is that in a pinch, those common parts, you don't want to be down because a clip broke and you don't have that clip or can't get it up and going. And I have a cute little story. One of our service techs, Matt Jasper, was on the phone with, it happened to be a Cinemark theater, and it was a service tech was in, and they diagnosed that the high limit needed to be replaced. And Matt was quick to think, he goes, you know what, ask that theater manager if he's got an orange box that looks like an emergency kit. And the repair guy goes, I don't think he has that box. And Matt goes, just go check. So he did, and sure enough, the emergency kit was there, and the service tech was able to repair that machine right there on the spot. So that reduced not only downtime, but he didn't have to come back. So that's now it's just one service call, not two, and it was a reduction in lost sales. So we do have this kit available, and there's the part number. Next slide. You can go next, yeah. And then, gosh, you never know. We introduced this warmer a couple years ago, and we had it at CinemaCon. It's pretty popular in Europe. It's about the size of a refrigerator that you'd see at a C-store. And recently had a conversation with a theater chain who said, you know, I'm having problems with all the online ordering, staging my popcorn and nachos, because as people order online, now they all come in at the same time and it's kind of a rush. So this warmer would come in super handy. It's our grab and go warmer. As I said, great for popcorn and nachos. There's pass-through options where you can have a solid back on one side. It's got a recirculating hot air conditioner and digital temperature controls, and the shelves are adjustable. So you can put whatever makes sense for you on those shelves, sizing. Next. All right, I think you guys recognize CinemaCon for those who attend that theater show. And for the stadium folks, this was of interest. There were some stadium people who came through the show, and we just kind of brought this as a concept. We called it the Beast. It's actually, it might be kind of hard to see, but it's got 3 suspended kettles and a conveyor belt that moves the popped popcorn down into either a bin or a designed bin if you want a bag. And it sifts out the seeds as it does that. But the thing that makes this pretty interesting is it reduces labor. You only need 1 operator. And of course, labor is going to be critical. I think I heard, maybe it was you, Ken, who said that the next pandemic is labor. But this is kind of a cool concept. So let us help you solve your problems. We'd love to do it. This is kind of a nod to our industrial side of the industry. We have been fortunately busy on our large production machines that companies like PepsiCo, you know, Cracker Jacks, and all the popcorn you see on the stores that everybody's been munching at home. We make that equipment. So we have a lot of know-how, and we're happy to help try to figure out ways to reduce labor. Next. All right, so yeah, we've been working on a bunch of stuff. You know, I thought I was going to be able to kick up my feet and eat bonbons and not have to work because nobody's open and buying anything. No, Andrew wasn't going to let me get away with that. So been working on a new website. We'll be launching that in the next month. And anybody who's had that project knows that's a handful. And then kind of exciting, we had a television crew in here about a week and a half ago from Fox Business News, and we will be on Trending Today on June 19th. I'll be sending out some more information, and I need to do a little shout out to Rob Novak and Marcus Theaters for allowing the camera crew to come in to the Addison location and film and interview Rob. So that should be a nice little boost for the concession industry. And we want people to know that safe protocols are in place and come out and go to the stadiums and the fairgrounds and enjoy a movie. We're ready. And then, of course, our engineers get antsy. So they've been designing new equipment. And one of them is it's a patent pending UVC sanitizing chamber. And the other one is trying to solve some problems that are, I don't know if you want to call them problems, just improve on an old design that's been out in the industry for a long time. We call it the rollery. So it's our version of the roller grill. You can go to the next slide, Chris. So here's the UVC sanitizing chamber. Some of you may recognize it looks an awful lot like a pizza display cabinet. Our engineers took a look at that cabinet and said, you know what? Well, everybody's concerned about sanitizing. What we did is we took that cabinet, put UVC lighting in all 4 corners and then down the center, and designed a rack that could hold multiple items. So, oh my gosh, think outside the box. You can put anything in it. It's great for shift changes. Like you look at Chris's headset, that could go in there, or a phone, a tablet. Any shared items, pens, safety glasses, I could go on and on and on, money, lanyards. So anytime you have the chance to reduce any bacteria is a good thing. We've put this UVC chamber through the white paper testing and tested out on 3 real tough bacteria, including E. coli, and it's sanitized at 99.99%. What makes this unique and patent pending is that it rotates that rack 360 degrees is what you're able to sanitize whatever you're putting inside that cabinet. So we just got that test report back this week. We're excited. You'll see a lot more information regarding this, but yeah, it could go so many places. Next. Chris. And here's a little drawing of our roller grill, the rollery. So what makes this unique is you can see that the side of the grill tilts up, and each one of those sleeves slips off the heat element and allows you to bring those sleeves to the sink. So not only can you reach underneath those rollers easily to clean, and that's a removable tray under the rollers, but each one of the rollers can go to the sink. We can do those rollers either in stainless or in a Teflon coated anodized aluminum. And we have it testing right now in the theater. For the last couple of weeks, it's been testing and it's performing well. So next steps will be UL, and we have the patent pending on that design also. Next. So where do you find Cretors? If you're not familiar with our company, please, well, I kind of don't want you to visit Cretors.com now because we're going to launch a new one, but you'll hear about that. Cretors.net is a secured site. Auto quotes, YouTube, of course, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please follow us, like us, Skype us, FaceTime us, Zoom us, whatever you want to do. We're here for you, and we're excited to be able to talk face to face a little bit. Kind of miss you guys in person though. The next slide, please. We would really like to hear from you. So here's my contact information. If you have any interest or want any more information on items that I just went over, we'd appreciate you reaching out. Chris, I appreciate NAC putting these on bi-monthly. It's awesome. And I really, some faces have been popping up. I really miss seeing everybody. So let's sell some popcorn so we can get together again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shelley. Always great to hear from you and see Cretors, and thank you once again for sponsoring today's program. So with that said, Ken Whiting, I will turn the screen over to you, and you can tell us about the amusement park industry.
I'm going to do just that. There we go. Chris, thank you for all that you do, your leadership for the NAC, and Shelley, thanks to you also for being a sponsor. It takes everybody to make the team go and the industry move forward. So very much appreciated. I mean, I've been a member of the NAC, I bet you for 30 years or more. I don't even know, and don't get to all of the conferences in the past, but certainly follow the industry very closely. So again, welcome to all of you who are online this afternoon. Appreciate that. It's my pleasure to be a part of this. Again, my name is Ken Whiting, and I'm a food and beverage operator here at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. I've spent my whole life here. We operate here. We operate in a sports stadium and out in fairs and festivals. And I'm sure, like all of your businesses or operations, on or about the middle of March last year, every bit of those just shut down 100%. And it was a hard year. So we can all lament together about 2020, but look forward to better days together as well, I'm sure. So I thought today, I just kind of want to paint almost a 30,000 foot view of the amusement park and attractions industry, and some lessons, kind of what was a year ago from a food and beverage standpoint, some lessons learned from those who got open, and then some creativity and pivots that occurred, and then maybe some expectations going forward. And I know we all have our stories about how we entered COVID, if you will. And mine goes something like this. I was at an IAAPA conference that was in Los Angeles. It was an IAAPA leadership conference. We had about 200 people there from all over the world. And the first part of the week, there's a little chatter about, this was like the week of, it ended like on the 13th. I think it was Friday the 13th. So that week, there's a little chatter and question marks about this thing, COVID, that people have been hearing about. And by Tuesday or Wednesday, there were a couple of people from internet that were out of the country, thought we better get back home just to make sure we can get back home. There were some question marks about travel. And then on Wednesday afternoon, we went to, we were down at Disneyland and met with the vice president and general manager there. She certainly didn't tell us anything about what their plans were. And we're out in the park for a couple hours. The park was packed. There wasn't a mask on anybody. There wasn't a jar of hand sanitizer to be found. And on the bus ride back home, I'm calling back to our team here in Santa Cruz going, this COVID thing's not that big a deal. Do not plan on closing. Don't do a thing. It's all good. I just left Disneyland. They're not doing anything. Thursday morning, they announced they were closing. And so what a difference a day makes. And so we all share the rest of that story. First, we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and that was no big deal. But my God, we'll be open in a couple more weeks. And no, we'll certainly be open by Memorial Day. Well, no, I guess we're 4th of July. Absolutely, right? So anyway, hard year, big exhale, 2021, here we come. So let me just kind of see if I can click through these a little bit. All of these things at IAAPA instantly, the IAAPA team did just an amazing job of jumping in there and working with a group of volunteers and with the CDC and the World Health Organization to outline reopening guidance for the whole industry. I mean, for every area of an amusement park, but even just the food and beverage things that were identified, and I'm not going to read these. There was just so many things and so many uncertainties and unknowns and erring on the side, as we should, like we all did, on the side of being certain that we were going to operate safely. And so there were just so many different points. If this is somebody, yeah, I think we all know this information. It was then, similar things came out from different industry groups and different companies and all. But I understand these sessions are recorded. So this is all available. You can reach out to me and I'd shoot it to you if you wanted to see. But there was just so much that was identified right away as necessary guidelines to open up when we got to that point. And at some point, after all that, IAAPA really did a wonderful job again of just kind of packaging up the steps going forward, how we could serve our members as well as our industry globally, and kind of channeled all of that through these 5 areas. And it just simply became the plan of attack for communications and execution for all things COVID, because that was what was 100% of the activity all of a sudden as the industry shut down 100% around the world. And everybody needed some connectivity and needed information and needed to know what to do next and what was going to happen. And so this information continued to get updated as new best practices became known and new and updated information became known. I'll also say in that time frame, I don't remember what the old numbers were, but good grief, the sheer numbers of member participation in the webinars and through all the social channels and simply into connecting into the IAAPA offices went up multiple factors. So we were hitting our strides and serving our membership well. And even though everybody was closed, the IAAPA team was busier than they had ever been, for sure. Those parks that got open last year, this is some just very broad kinds of comments, but some did, some didn't. That depended upon the state somebody was located in, depended on the counties they were located in, it depended on what tier level they were in. Then there was conditions related to attendance. And so some parks might have been allowed to open at certain levels of attendance, but determined it just wasn't worth opening. So it was and then those that got open, it was difficult. It was tough to operate under all the conditions and to remain profitable and then to be faced with just a lot of challenges. I mean, and so again, so many unknowns. I mean, there was so much managing of mask wearing by employees and by guests. I mean, those that were there, even though they all knew it was a daily struggle for so many operators to maintain compliance. And, all these other standard things I think apply to all of our businesses and all the daily health screenings for our employees. And even the guests had to have temperatures taken, fever, for those kind of things. There's a lot of changes, and I don't really have this in a good order, but as I'm looking at all the sanitizing and the overall cleanliness and the disinfecting procedures is, oh my gosh, it just, if you could go to the extreme, that's what occurred. And again, that was necessary. There were a lot of changes to menus in terms of where staffing might have been tight last summer. The menus got smaller and a lot more pre-packaged, pre-made items were brought in. There was a lot of just focus on the perception as much as the reality, because a lot of the guests were really looking at things and kind of micromanaging the experience through their own eyes. And there was just so many different other kinds of touch points on adjusting to all things COVID. One was just workplace accommodations of making sure you had teams that were focused and only working in certain areas, because if and when somebody did have exposure to COVID or got it themselves, then the contact tracing didn't mean you had to shut your whole operation down, right? You could just kind of close a location for a period of time, as that entire group had to be out of work for a while. And a lot of properties did a lot of internal changes to make sure that even for staff, that there was less points of sale so that everybody could keep a healthy distance apart from each other. And when somebody got sick and they were out of work and you had to pay them for that, it was hard. But those that were open worked through this and actually kind of helped to set the standard for all of us going forward. And one thing at the very bottom of that list is that it was clear 100% of the places everywhere per capita, simply revenue on a per person basis, was up. I mean, spending was happening at an incredible level beyond what anybody was ever experiencing in the past. So those that came to spend and have a good time. So kind of moving past that for a moment, just some creativity and pivots. This gentleman, that photo right there on the left, I remember it might have still been in March. But maybe he's in the audience today as a member of NAC, I have no idea. He was a movie theater operator, and within days after having to shut down, he was out on the sidewalk selling popcorn from his concession stand. And that moment in time was, we've got to come up with some way to make some money. And there was all of a sudden lots of interesting things happening around the industry and within my own operation. I'll share some of that. But this gentleman right here, who I don't remember his name, or I think he was from back east, but that, and then some concession operators that had concession trailers from the fair and festival world, they were instantly looking for places to open up. And it was like, okay, the show will go on, maybe just someplace else. So that became, not advancing here, let me see, there we go. So some of those creativities and pivots, and this first one simply is just a mobile ordering. It might be less pivoting towards this rather than acceleration towards this, because mobile ordering certainly had continued to find its home, but it went full steam ahead in 2020 and will continue that pace throughout 2021. I did some examples there from Six Flags, and they had been in the mobile ordering in a big way, but they continued to build the back end of their proprietary system and advance the communications of it, and saw tremendous increases in adoption and use. We learned earlier, or late last year, we learned that at Disney World, I think they started where it was in the 20 percentile range of their food and beverages ordered through their mobile ordering processes. But all of last year, it was at 84% of their business came through mobile ordering. And there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. I mean, that's just going to be the continual way of making it happen. And it can happen any one of a number of ways. And so many of you are probably a lot smarter than I am on this. But you can have your own proprietary systems, or even in the bottom right there, just a lot of the uses of QR codes and just order, right? You know, people there's a lot of guests want mobile ordering, they want contactless payment, and they don't want to stand in front of a cashier. So there's some pretty simple, cost-effective ways to make that happen nowadays. Some other kinds of creative pivots that occurred, or certainly any amusement park that owned food trucks, they were finding places for those to go, maybe out in front of their parks, but they were definitely finding homes for them to open up where they could make $1. There was a lot of people who used their physical plant, their acreage that they own, and set up drive-ins for movies and live streamed in concerts, and set up food and beverage operations for that. certainly a tremendous amount of people tried, myself included, curbside pickup, third-party delivery, that kind of thing, in terms of seeing they could generate a little bit of revenue and keep some staff working. That was the other big unknown, is how long is this going to go on? How much staff do we keep and how much do we not keep? And how much can we afford to keep? So of our full-time teams. And so while we had teams available to work on other things, there was a tremendous amount tested. So like curbside pickup, third-party delivery, very, very utilized last year. Mobile ordering, I talked about, and again, for Six Flags example, it was really an acceleration, but for many, it was an entry point and brand new component of their business starting last year. The food festivals became one. Knott's Berry Farm probably had the premier one, at least in terms of success. I mean, as we rolled into summer, and so many amusement parks, most by far, doing the majority of their business that time of the year, there was just a lot of people just could not stand having the gates closed. We had to do something. What are we allowed to do? Well, you could invite people in and they could eat there. The rides had to be closed. And I mean, Knott's Berry Farm had an event, and they still do. Well, they're getting ready to reopen now, but once they started, they had to cap their attendance on their events at 5,000 people. They sold out every single night for a kind of a food tasting event in their parks. And there's lots of others like that as well. There was a variety of drive-through events, whether they were food and beverage specific, or they were at Christmas time. A lot of amusement parks couldn't do their Christmas events, but they say we do drive-through for the lights and create opportunities for folks to buy food and beverage, and served, into their cars. I think at Magic Mountain in Southern California, they had a car show, and there's different that with the same kind of concept. People just drove through and saw the displays of these cars that they had available, and they made ways of selling food. Zoos, a lot of zoos did that as well. Recipe sharing on social became just a really big deal to stay engaged with their guests. There's a picture of a Dole Whip there. If you've ever been to Disneyland, Disney World, you know that pineapple Dole Whip's a big deal. And so they were sharing recipes on that, but recipes on everything that they have. And so many others did, just again, to maintain that that connectivity to their audience. And there were several, one other idea that occurred was year-round restaurants from a couple of places. And I've got some examples here, just of a few that I'll share. But we've got facilities and we've got staff, but people just weren't coming in the traditional way. So what else can you do? So Typhoon Texas is an organization that has two properties in the state of Texas, one in Houston and one in the Austin area. And in Houston, they have a nimble team that is proactive and willing to try anything. And in Houston, Easter, was only, I don't remember the date, but it was the first part of April. And they have an award-winning barbecue restaurant within their water park. And circumstantially, that's all. There's a way for people to drive in one area and drive right through the park, right past the barbecue restaurant and out. Well, these pictures here don't do the line of people justice, but before Easter, they had this up and running, and hundreds of cars came to order food, order barbecue meals from them. And they had people working the car lines, and by the time they got up to the place, they were picking up their food and driving through the park on their way out. And so that's become a standard for that park. It won't happen when they're in daily operations, but they've got that they know it works, and it's a new revenue generator for them forever. Down in Typhoon, Texas, in the Austin property, same thing. They've got this wonderful facility, but they were sitting there just staring at empty buildings, right? And so they thought they would try branding an area of their park called the patio and advertise that to come on in. And they adjusted the menus a little bit and did what they had to do to make it a worthwhile destination, and did a wonderful job of simply being open for this one restaurant. Incidentally, both of these and the one I'll talk about next, Lagoon, has very strong season pass holder bases, and that are folks that are very loyal to their properties and willing and wanting to help, right, during COVID. So they had a good target market to start with, to market to. And they were able to bring a lot of people out for the experience. And as they continued to do a great job, word of mouth, and those people kept coming back, and it turned out to be real successes. At Lagoon Amusement Park in Salt Lake City, a couple of years ago, they opened up a beer hall, a beer garden, a wonderful facility and restaurant. Very nice facility, and it was doing very well. And anyway, it wasn't built to be open on the daily all year round, but same kind of experience. Here they are shut down. They got full-time staff. Circumstantially, again, this restaurant at least was up towards the front of the park, and there was an area that people could park and kind of walk to it, not very far from the parking lot. So they got that organized, and they just went right into it. Last fall, of operating it daily and promoting that, and just, of course, it started very slow, but just recently, in talking to the general manager there, it has continued to grow as people they like it, they like the experience, they keep coming back, they keep promoting it, and so that's been a very real win. And there's lots of other similar kinds of examples, and it's only worth calling out because they would not have happened without COVID. That's the key message. And along those lines, I just want to share my own company story. This isn't to be self-serving at any level, but we're just honestly just super proud of our team. We sat down, had to be by the first part of April last year, when we realized we didn't know how long we were going to be closed. My message was, hey, we've got a gift of time. We never have this kind of time where we can actually work on things that we never have time to work on before, because we're open and busy and dealing with all the necessary things of running a business. And so we had that gift of time. And so it's like we need to come out of COVID looking a little different and a little better than we did going in. That was the mission that I challenged everybody with, and that we need to stay in our lane. Don't come back, and we're not going to get in some business that isn't aligned and synergetic with what we already do. And it wasn't a straight line, because we tried and tested all sorts of things. But what we ended up is, on the bottom we figure we're in two kinds of businesses. We're in the foods for fun business, and we're in the people business. When I say people business, we hire a tremendous amount, all of us do, right, of high school and college age individuals. And we have a lot of training programs for them, and a lot of them that have won awards. So we repackaged our training materials and now made those available for sale to other employers of teens and young adults, and have launched that under the brand of Gen Next Success. And then we launched Santa Cruz Fun Foods, where we provide foods for fun to other places in a wholesale manner. That was not a straight line at all. We tried all sorts of ways. But now what we've done is we've taken a couple of our, long time, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is a very old property. My first job was peeling bananas, like almost 60 years ago. And so chocolate dip bananas, another ice cream treat. There's a couple photos of them there. We decided to package those, find a co-packer for us that's doing that, and we're out selling those now to around the country, really. And then we partnered with one of our vendor partners, the Icy Company, and we developed and created Icy branded cotton candy, and they're selling that into the amusement parks and attractions channel of business, or any place for that matter. But it has been a huge success. And so we will look different and better coming out of COVID and going in. And that is something that I am very proud of our team with, because they worked hard and we never gave up, and it turned out good. But there was a COVID response. It's a good thing we got those things done because we are open now at the park and we are busy, and we wouldn't have gotten through it now. So we did turn something good out of it. The couple of other just things that will create some pivots perhaps is that everybody has gotten a fresh look at their business, whatever that might have been. I mean, there's a zero-based budgeting approach. I'm sure this applied to almost every business where everybody had to look at every line item on their P&Ls, every chart of account. Do we need this subscription? Do we need to pay these dues? Do we need to sell these menu items? Just on and on. And so everything got an opportunity to get challenged and questioned and determine the value of it. I would suspect this is true for everybody, but managers had to work closer to customers and closer to the employees that they had than ever before or ever in recent years. And that got lots of questions raised, like, boy, why do we do things this way? Even though they were managing processes before, now that they're doing them, it's like, we don't really need to spend the time to do this. It serves no purpose. And so everybody was able to kind of look at their business again, kind of like it's their first year in business, like you're a startup. You got the experience of the past, but we got a fresh look going forward. And in the name of being a positive, optimistic person and looking for the upsides of COVID, that was one that we all absolutely had. And the photo there means absolutely nothing other than Cabo San Lucas is one of my favorite places, and that's the job I want when I retire. So that's why that is there. So enough of that. And then kind of what to expect going forward. Shelley mentioned this. You did hear this from me, and I think I heard it from Bernie Campbell, who's online. Bernie's the current chair of the IAAPA Food and Beverage Committee and leader with Whirly Drink Works. But labor is definitely the new pandemic. And if you aren't reopened yet and you aren't sure about that, plan on it, because it is. All of us online today, I am sure, have lived through tight staffing challenges. This is not that. This is that plus. The reasons I'm sure have to do with unemployment and other stimulus checks and mom and dad not wanting their kids to work. I don't know all the reasons. All I can tell you is across the country, there isn't a property, if I understood Shelley right, or a supplier that it can get enough employees right now. I mean, it's in fact, it's critical. And so it is the new pandemic. I saw the other day where Cedar Fair Corporation at a couple of their parks, maybe all of them for that matter, but at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, and at their Slitherbond water parks in Texas, they're offering a $500 hiring bonus for anybody that starts with them. I don't know what the small print is. I'm sure there's a little bit, but they hired tens and tens and tens of thousands of employees this summer. So they aren't just throwing that out there because they want to be nice. So labor is definitely going to be an increased challenge this year for sure. Another kind of just some expectations. Not in any priority, but that I think that are fair to say are going to be in place as we all march forward. Is again, mobile ordering and contactless payment is here to stay. More cashless operations. I think there's more places that it will be 100% cashless and deal with that in different ways. The recruiting and retention and increased employee engagement, simply, we all do that anyway, but just like the inability to find enough people, will only have that being a higher degree of focus, and probably should have put training on that as well. The interviews and orientations have all gone virtual, digital in different ways, and that's gonna, our virtual Zoom, Teams meeting format is going to stay in place for a while in our industry. It's going to find its home in areas that it didn't exist before. I think we can plan on supply chain challenges, just in terms of we found we went from, in our own case, but this goes for so many others. we had this whole year to prepare, right? But then we went from, in California, April 1, we could actually reopen some rides, and we went from 0 to 100 overnight. So did our suppliers and our distributors. So nobody was ready, and now even they can't get the supplies that they need. So there's a tremendous loss of experience, and there's less support as everybody's had to kind of rebuild their teams. We'll still have attendance limitations in most parts of the country, and that's a little challenging to manage too. And all the COVID stuff, which is going to be kind of routine now, the masks, the physical distancing, the health checks, the hand sanitizing, the gloves, they'll be in place. At least that's our expectation throughout the year. And if you aren't flexible, you're going to be in the wrong business. So things are going to change, and they change quickly. And I think maybe the positive side of looking forward as what everybody can expect. If we're going to, at least in the amusement parks, we're going to be busy. Guests are coming back out. They want to be back outside, or they want to be entertained. They want to enjoy themselves and be someplace with their family and with their friends. And so 2020, no good. 2021, looking better. And I think 2022 for our industry will start to feel normal as we transition into 22. So that is my story. I hope there are some questions that I can answer and go from there. So,
Well,
thanks.
you bet. Thank you, Ken. Lots of great stuff there, and fascinating to hear it from your perspective. We do have a staffing question, and I think you hit on it, but what specifically your team, are you doing anything different to attract employees?
We have so many tools in our toolbox because we've all lived through tight staffing periods before. We're using all of them, first of all. And I got to tell you, and I think humbly, I say we're pretty good at it too. Nothing is really, there's not a lever that we can pull that is making a difference. And the one thing that it has created in our world is that we've had to hire a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds because they seem to be available. And that's wonderful. They are eager. They are coachable, trainable, and that's great. Except they come with significant limitations to hours of work and type of work and other kinds of activities that they cannot do. So we can't sustain our business with that age group. But we have way more right now than we've ever had in any recent period. So there isn't one thing. We don't believe it's just raise your pay by an extensive amount. I don't think that's the thing that's going to make the difference. So,
in terms of some of the limitations around the country, and I think you're pretty tied in. Has there been any dialing back, or do you foresee any dialing back at various geographies throughout the country or the world?
You know what? I'm just one guy's opinion. It seems like, to me, everybody's ramping up and not expecting to go backwards at this point, between now and through summer, and hopefully now through ever. I mean, vaccines are happening, and those states that moved the slowest, New York, Illinois, California, and others, I mean, they're all moving forward pretty robustly right now in terms of allowing facilities to reopen, at least amusement parks. And so I don't sense a roll backwards at this point.
Okay.
It's more a matter of at what pacing it increases.
Okay. In terms of guest compliance, do you run into a fair number of non-compliant guests? And if so, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So first of all, last year we were closed. But last year I heard horror stories, terrible stories about non-compliance, and it was simply handled by the management leadership teams of parks having to be out on the grounds and consistently reminding folks, it wasn't a surprise when they walked in the front door, but people would take their masks off, right? And this consistently reminding people they have to do it. Some people thought it was just their God-given right to not have to wear a mask, and there was a fight. Seems to me like society is kind of caught up with all of that. And we've been open now only for a couple of weeks here fully. And it's like it's been like a non-issue. Everybody's wearing masks for sure. That's a requirement, but it hasn't been a big issue at all.
You hit upon per caps, and we've heard from different people on these calls, both in movie theaters and stadiums, arenas, they're experiencing the same thing. And I think everybody's got different theories for why that is. What's your theory for why that is?
Last summer, one of my theories is, well, a lot of people, a lot of our peers just called it COVID money. People seem to have some extra money and they were out spending. But also, because there was less people in the parks, there were no lines. And there were less lines. And from a food and beverage standpoint, lots of what we sell, is impulse oriented. And, I don't need a funnel cake. I don't need another, banana split kind of thing. And, so if there's a long line and a long wait, I can talk myself out of it, but those didn't exist. So people can get right up and get a second beverage and have another meal or whatever it was. So that's my thought about last year. The other is that as we've gone more to mobile ordering and credit card only, cashless operations, transactions are simply higher. I mean, that's kind of an old news now. They're simply higher when people order through a mobile device or pay with a credit card. And it's just easier to suggestive sell for people to buy the additional item, to spend more freely for their families. And so that was all in place as well, where most places were cashless too. So we've gone cashless, and I would have been the last person on this planet to advocate for that in 2019. But now I'm the number one person saying, let's stay that way. Speed of service is so much quicker and spending is significantly higher.
Okay. Ken, now that you're open, are there some specific items that you're seeing that you're short on, that you're just having such a struggle getting a hold of?
Yeah, a couple, we've had to get substitutions on items. A pizza crust that we had spec for us that we're very proud of. Can't seem to get our hands on it right now. And it's not that we can't find some kind of a substitute. J&J Snack Food just has some challenges with churros and pretzels. And what else did I hear? Some of the I was going to say ketchup packets, but that's specifically the condiment packets and things as well. So there's some things that, you want X amount and you're going to get X minus some amount. You would just get less. But people are catching up. That hasn't been a big deterrent, but we are selling some food items that, and using ingredients that are different from what we had to use before.
I think you hit on this, but you mentioned some parks doing some creative things around something like a car show or something.
Yeah.
They couldn't open up their attractions, so they did stuff. Do you see them looking at those experiences and going, "Hey, this might fit our normal model"?
Yes, absolutely. The at certain times of the year, it has to fit, right? Because if you're open every day or during the period of the time we are open every day, that's what you do best, right? I can't have cars going through my water park to the barbecue restaurant when we're open, right? So, but I have a hunch that that'll get right back in place, and I think the Christmas light drive-through shows will probably even expand the places that didn't have a Christmas event in the past. So there's, I do think that from the venue, from the park specific, everybody had to look at their business model differently last year. They got this giant investment, right? and nobody wants to look at that closed. So what can we do? What can we bring in here? So even without COVID restrictions, if we have periods of time when we're closed, why not have a car show as an example and put it through the park and let people drive through or walk through? And we don't, driving is only because of COVID. So it might just be a walkthrough event with the rest of the park closed. I mean, so.
Got another question that came in here. Is your arena welcoming guests yet? And what does the guest experience look like there?
Yeah. What was that first part, Trish?
Is your arena welcoming guests?
Arena?
Yes.
No. We're very optimistic. The arena that we operate has been closed since last year. Besides some concerts and other kinds of events, it's the home of the Golden State Warriors G League team, the Santa Cruz Warriors. And so that's a basketball season, kind of November through March. And so, I mean, just the other day, the president of that team was telling me that they, right today, are fully expecting to have a full season with people inside starting, in November, whatever the date is. So I don't expect we'll see anything in there prior to that.
Okay. And as I understand, the G League just did a bubble experience this season and didn't have any in-arena events. So.
No, not even without people. There was just no activity in any of the local arenas that they play in. So,
okay. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, Ken. So I just want to thank you again for giving us your unique perspective. I thought, the timing was perfect to have you on, and hopefully maybe down the road we can have you on again. But thanks again, Ken. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. After we get through this year, there'll be other stories to tell or other experiences to share after the whole industry is back open. So again, thank you for allowing me to participate, and anytime I can be of service, I'd be pleased to. So.
All right. Thanks again, Ken. And also thanks to Shelley Olson and C. Cretors and Company once again for being today's sponsor. It is certainly appreciated. So with all that great information shared today, it's time to wrap it up. And I just want to do that with a few reminders. Again, the next NAC Check-in Chat is slated for May 5th. And that's going to be Win Salish of Casablanca Ventures. And we're going to talk about payment processing and data security during that session. Free registration will be out soon. Look for that in email, social media. Any way you get your NAC news, you can find out that information. We want to remind you from our friends at CinemaCon that registration is open and you can go visit them at their site. And then also, please circle that October 27th, 28th, Hyatt Regency in Dallas, the NAC Concession and Hospitality Expo. We're hoping to get back on track and have a live event and see everybody, as Shelley mentioned, see everybody in person is what we're aiming to do. So please look at that on your schedule. Hopefully things will be on track by then and we'll be able to have a great meeting in Dallas. So thanks again, everyone. Would like to encourage you to attend future events. This is the NAC Check-in Chat. It's a production of the National Association of Concessionaires, where food meets fun. Thanks everybody for checking in, and we will see you soon. Goodbye now.
Good day.